Hello and welcome to Immigration USA with Kathia. Today I am going to tell you about what all the immigrations news that are going on right now in the United States and how it's impacting the life of thousands and thousands of immigrants who live in the United States with the hope of having better lives, who are working in the United States with the hope that things are going to be better for them and their families. So a lot of things have happened during the weekend and today, and so stay put because I am going to tell you what is going on. When I woke up this morning, the first news was that 300 student visas have been revoked, and with them, the lives of 300 students who spent a lot of money to move from their countries to study in the United States have been damaged. So why did this happen? How did this happen? Well, the government is giving no explanation. They're just saying that the visas have been revoked. We assume that the government has reviewed the social media of these people or their prior history and has found that this is that they have done something that it's against the government's interests. And so what could that be? Well, many things. I've been saying for the past 2 weeks that immigrants in this moment, in this day and age, cannot post absolutely anything that has to do with political opinion. It doesn't matter if it's US politics or international politics. They could not post anything that has to do with firearms, violence of any kind, drugs, including marijuana, because all of these is against what the government thinks is it's possible. So if a person is outside the United States and the government revokes a visa, a tourist visa, a student visa, a work visa, nothing happens. The person is just out of luck, and they could ask the embassy or the consulate for review, but they don't have any recourse because immigration is a privilege. But the thing is completely different when the person is inside the United States, because the moment a person is inside the United States, then constitutional rights apply. And so these people have been notified, and the government has notified the universities that the visas have been revoked. So what happens with them? Do they have to leave immediately? And what happens with all the money that they paid and the education that they were getting? What happens with the years that they invested? Well, it's not that easy when a person is inside the United States. Some of the people who have received the notifications that their visas have been revoked have still the right to see an immigration judge and go through deportation proceedings. And during those deportations proceedings, they cannot ask for a tourist visa or a student visa, but they may be able to ask for asylum or for a green card if they're married to a U.S. citizen, or if they have a U.S. citizen child that is more than 21 years of age, or TPS. I mean, there are other options. Some of the students who have had their visas revoked, if they are less than 2 years inside the United States, then they don't have any opportunity to see an immigration judge. Their only option is going to be to request habeas corpus in federal court. But is that something good? Well, some of these students, all they want is their education, their diploma. And in order to continue getting this diploma, they're going to have to leave the country immediately so that they can continue their studies online virtually and they can still get their degrees. Some of them will probably fight to stay in the United States, but there are very limited means for someone who has a student visa. So this is very sad news, but allows me to tell the whole immigrant community that the government is reviewing social media, is reviewing any information of the immigrant that is public. So any criminal records, any traffic records. Apparently there is a student whose visa has been revoked for a traffic violation. We don't know if that's true or not. We have no way of reviewing that, but there shouldn't, a traffic violation shouldn't be a reason to cancel a student visa. So please, 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 this is a kind warning. Do not post anything in social media that it's related to violence, drugs, firearms, or any political opinion. And when I mean do not post anything, I am talking about music that has to do with, narco corridos, or music, protest music that has to do with political protests from your country. Nothing. And if you have done it, please remove it. Please remove it, because you probably inadvertently reshare something that somebody sent you. Review your social media and clean all of that, because the government may be able to use it against you. So beware and protect yourself. So that was the first news of this morning. The second news of this morning was that in the case of Kilmar Abrego, it's a young kid who had come to the United States from El Salvador asking for asylum. The government did not provide him asylum, but an immigration judge gave him an order of protection from deportation to El Salvador. So the judge said, okay, we cannot give you asylum, but we are not going to allow for the government to deport you. So I'm giving you an order that says that ICE cannot deport you to El Salvador. Well, he's been living with that order for many years, and then the government ICE comes and grabs him and deports him back to El Salvador and puts him in a maximum security prison by mistake. And when the lawyers take this case to court, to federal court, the trial attorneys, the government lawyers say, we made a mistake. Sorry, we made a mistake. So a judge says, okay, so you need to correct your mistake, so bring this person back to the United States. And the government says, no, we cannot do that. We already deported him. He can't come back. Well, that's not true. It's a lie. But the government has appealed this decision to the Fourth Circuit. And the Fourth Circuit told the government yesterday that they, in fact, has to bring this man back. So instead of bringing this man back, and the deadline was today, the government has appealed to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is currently reviewing this issue. And in the meantime, they will not bring back Kilmar Abrego. We have to wait for the decision of the Supreme Court. So that's what is going on in that case. And I believe that this was a mistake and that the government has an obligation to correct the mistakes. However, this brings me to the third news of the day. However, everything is on hold. Everything can happen because we just received a decision of the Supreme Court on the case of the deportations under that Foreign Enemies Act. And I still believe that Kilmar Abrego will return, but this decision has been tremendously wrong from the Supreme Court. So hold on, because I'm going to explain to you what happened. Well, a couple weeks ago, the government invoked a very old law, and very, very, very old law, that says that in times of war, the United States may deport enemies in this war, enemies that are foreign outside of the United States expeditiously. Expeditiously means without giving them the normal process, okay? Because in times of war, you do in an emergency situation, you can do emergency things. Well, when they invoked this law, they detained 280 people, and in one night, they deported all of them to El Salvador, even if they weren't from El Salvador, because most of them were Venezuelans. And they accused them of being members of Tren de Aragua, and they deported them all to El Salvador and put them in this maximum security prison called Secot. And so the lawyers filed lawsuit against this decision. The first judge who saw this complaint stopped the government from continuing with using this law to deport people the way they were doing it. And the second, the government appealed, and they ended up in the Supreme Court. So now the Supreme Court has issued a decision, and the decision is horrible. The decision says that the government, in fact, has the right to apply this Foreign Enemies Act law and deport people if they believe they are enemies in times of war. Now, the only one good thing that this decision says is that they can use the law, but they cannot deport people without notifying them why they're being considered foreign enemies and without giving them an opportunity to defend themselves. So they no longer will be able to just detain someone, put them in a plane, and send them to another country. That cannot happen again. So what the Supreme Court is saying, yes, the law exists and you can use it, but you cannot deport people in one day. You're going to have to first notify them what you're accusing them for, and then you have to give them a reasonable time to file habeas. File habeas is go to federal court and explain why, in your opinion, the government is wrong and you are not an alien enemy. Now, sounds good, right? Sounds like, okay, so it's not all for the government. But the reality is that most of these immigrants that the government is accusing are poor people. They are immigrants. They're underserved. They are living not in the best conditions. So how many of them will have the opportunity to hire a lawyer? How expensive will it be to go to federal court? Some of them will be able to obtain free lawyers from different civil organizations, but all of them will not be able. And the other thing is, what is a reasonable time? The Supreme Court did not say what is a reasonable time. Of course, for the government, one day may be a reasonable time. But for the immigrants, it takes several days to be able to find a lawyer and to get the lawyer to prepare everything to file in federal court. So all I can say is I believe that the Supreme Court decision is wrong. 6 justices were in support of this decision. 3 dissented. There was a partial dissent too. All of the justices agreed that nobody should be deported without an opportunity to defend themselves, especially from terrible accusations as being terrorists. But I think this time the Supreme Court got it wrong, and time will be the only way to tell. Many times the Supreme Court has reversed itself, and I think this is one of those situations in which sometime in the future we will see that they made a mistake. So it's really sad, but it's what's going on. So after this decision, what is going to happen to Kilmar Abrego? I don't know. I still think that the Supreme Court should have the guts to tell the president, you made a mistake, you fix it, because we are the United States and we should be able to fix our mistakes. So we have to wait and see what is going on there. But that was news number 3. Now, news number 4, and this is really, really important. And I pray that you would help me share the information. If you know any immigrant in your social media, we really need to spread this news because it touches directly my immigrant community. If you have any process pending and you are able to ask for an advance parole is when I ask for permission to travel outside the United States. Most people don't know this, but sometimes immigrants have a process pending and they're stuck inside the United States because they cannot travel without a special permit called advance parole. Well, this advance parole can be given to certain immigrants, and as of Friday, we were asking for these permits even for people who had prior deportation orders, because at this moment they had some other benefit. So you could have a deportation order from when you were 2 or 3 years old, and then today you're a dreamer, you're a DACA, and you have an employment authorization and you're living legally in the United States, and you ask for a permit to travel. So if you have this permit to travel, you could leave and come back, because we have the law on our site that says that departures under advance parole are not departures that trigger order of deportations. Well, last Friday, a DACA, a dreamer, came back on advance parole, and instead of the CBP officer allowing him inside the United States, he was deported to Mexico because he had this removal order that he didn't even know about. And so what the CBP officer did is against the law. It's wrong. But in the meantime, I cannot tell anyone in a similar situation to travel outside the United States. So please, please listen to me. If you want to travel outside the United States, you need to obtain advance parole. You can apply for it. It takes 9 to 10 months to obtain one of these permits. However, if you already have an approved advance parole at this very moment, and you have an order of deportation, a previous order of deportation, do not travel. Not until we clarify this issue. Not until the government tells us that this was a mistake. Because if this is a new policy, then you will not come back. So we need to be very careful. If you have advance parole, you cannot travel outside the United States if you have a prior order of deportation. Please, please, please help me share this information, because if people travel and this was not a one mistake, but it's a change in policy, then all the people with advance parole and prior orders of removal are not going to come back. And we cannot afford that mistake. So please help me share that information. Let me see. I've told you all the news for the day. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Let me see here. Let's see. Hi, my people in TikTok, how are you? Yes, that the Supreme Court has decided for the Trump administration in that they can use the Alien Enemies Act, but they cannot just deport people without giving them an opportunity to defend themselves. Which sounds nice, but in reality is not that nice. I have interviewed 2 weeks ago. I don't see anything change to my case status where what I have to do. Well, there's nothing you can do for the first 90 days. You have to wait. Normally, if you have an interview for a green card, in 2 weeks, you should already be receiving your green card if the officer processed your application the same day or the next day. If you don't see anything, there might be investigating something, or he has given the file to a supervisor to review. And so you just have to wait. And the uncertainty kills, right? But nothing we can do. We have to wait a minimum of 90 days, and then your lawyer has to try to contact them. Let me see if I can. Here says, hey, will changing my address from San Francisco to Fresno move my asylum case to Concord Court automatically? No. You can change your address. That doesn't change the court. That just changed the place where they are going to notify you. If you want to change the court, you need to do something called motion to change venue. And for that, you need to you should already have a lawyer. Just tell your lawyer. Let me see. My son got his biometrics appointment canceled. His DACA. Well, that is not a problem. If the appointment for the fingerprints was canceled, it's because they already have the fingerprints. So you shouldn't worry about that. Should DACA travel domestically or stay still? Domestically, there's no issue. The problem is leaving the United States. Can I travel with my I-551 without having problems? Well, I don't know, William, because if you have a legal permanent residency and you don't have any criminal record and you've never had issues with immigration before, that means detentions, deportations, or any of that, you shouldn't have any problem traveling. You are fine. But if you have any type of criminal record or you've had any issues with deportations before, please do not travel until you talk to an immigration lawyer. Citizen wife sent I-130 for me a year ago, still says it's been reviewed. Did we do something wrong? No, right now it takes about 18 months for an I-130 to be approved. If you speak Spanish and you want to know about any other topic, please go to my social media in Spanish. It's called Inmigrando con Kathia. I have videos of every topic you could imagine. Parole in place, adjustment of status, consular process, immigrant visas, non-immigrant visas. I mean, thousands of videos. So please, I invite you to check Inmigrando con Kathia. Now, if you only speak English, well, this channel is brand new and I am starting to create information. So stay tuned, subscribe, turn on notifications. I am trying to do these videos every Monday to tell you the news of what's going on in immigration, and I'm trying to post daily. I'm doing the best I can. So I hope that this was interesting to you and that you help me share the information so that we can inform as many immigrants as possible to improve their lives in the United States. Thank you so much for being with me today, and thank you for supporting my job. See you soon.